But an intellectual horsepower is all about using your own personal areas of expertise or skill set to really make a difference, even sometimes recognizing opportunities that others miss.
Hello and welcome to In the Rising podcast. My name is Bettina Brown, and this is the platform I've chosen to talk about living a life that's in alignment with your hopes, your dreams, and your goals. And for some of us, our goals are very much career-oriented. Either we've been out of the workforce for a time, raising children or due medical issues, or some of us are just having a different transition into a different career or just a different mindset about our career. And this is where my guest, Karan Ferrell-Rhodes, comes right in handy and just in time. She has worked with Fortune 50 companies, really the 50 most prosperous companies on the planet, and has a lot of knowledge about what makes people energized and how you can lead well. And sometimes leading well has nothing to do with people who report to you, but everything to do with yourself and how you present yourself in the workforce. I am on fire today because I get to meet someone who I think is really an amazing person. Just reading your bio, I was like, wow. And the things you've done, I was like, wow. And just knowing that you are doing amazing things for people as they're going through their journey, and also businesses, corporations. Not all of us own our own company and are our own corporation or business, but there are principles that are important. So first and foremost, thank you so much for being on In the Rising podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Tina. This is fantastic to be here.
I think we're going to have fun.
I think we are. I'm all in.
All right. I love that. I love all in and fun. And you are an amazing professional. I'd like you to sum up your history just to how you got to be where you are today.
All right. Well, the quick version of it all, the 50,000-foot view. I've always been fascinated about successful people and what made them successful, even from a youth. I could trace that back. And so long story short, I love people, but I also love business. And so a fascination for the people side of business has been the red thread throughout my entire career. And I've made a career of over 20 years in the areas of human resources, leadership development, and organizational effectiveness. So anything on the people side of the business, I've worked on the corporate side of the house, and now I consult via my own firm.
Yeah. And your firm has an incredible name, Shockingly Different Leadership, SDL. And what are you hoping to be shockingly different about that, you're like, this approach or these views should be more common versus different?
No, great question. I will say that the origin of the firm was focused on helping to ready and develop leaders within organizations to take on their next biggest, greatest leadership role, whatever was what was on next on the horizon for them. In corporate America, we call them a variety of things like high potential or key talent or what have you. But I really wanted to work with the best of the best to ensure that they were prepared for their next role, because the worst thing that can happen, as you have mentioned, is we know a bad leader when we see it. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make sure fewer people were exposed to a bad leader. So my career on the corporate side had been in human resources and leadership development. And then when I started the firm with Shockingly Different Leadership, we wanted to have both the leaders and their companies be really delighted with how we help be a part of their success. So that was the origin of our company.
And I really like the name, but I also like what you just said, key talent. There's something, you can just see it in certain people. There's something different. But being at the top of one pool does not mean you're going to be at the top of the next pool. How do you feel, or how do you encourage people to learn to navigate to be successful at the next level and the next level and the next level?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I will boil it down to is that what is most critical is what they're going through right then and there when we're discussing it with them, and in the environment, the working environment, or if they own a business, the client environment that they're working in. There's not a cookie cutter approach for everyone. There's some principles that are usually help give you the advantage when you're trying to lead in various areas of your employer or business. But where the magic comes in is navigating through those obstacles that you're facing, while also honing your leadership skills. So I will just say it's a combination of building a good foundation with individuals on where they should focus, developing their skill sets for, and then really being a partner and helping them strategize and navigate the challenges that come their way.
Mm-hmm. And because there are challenges coming.
Always.
Yes.
I wish I would be a trillionaire if I could figure out the magic pill to avoid challenges, but unfortunately, no.
We're still at this level, no trillionaires yet, but we know those
Not
challenges
yet.
are coming. We know those hits are coming, and a lot of those hits tend to be the same. But if we can prepare, just like with any sport, this is going to eventually come. And what I, learned about you is you have already been working with Fortune 50 leaders, business owners. You have written articles for Fortune, and you have a book, Lead at the Top of Your Game.
Yeah.
And you share some lessons. And the one I was most attracted to was intellectual horsepower.
Those out of the seven.
I love that.
Yes.
Can you share what that is?
Yes, very quickly. So just to give context very quickly to your listeners, we did research on a global population of over 10,000 individuals who were considered superstars within their organization. And out of that research, we were able to develop a list of behaviors or actions or tactics that they did that helped contribute to their success. So out of that, we were able to rank the tops. Well, we had over 100, but there was a distinct level of emphasis on the top 7 that we flushed out. And that's what I shared in my book. But particular to your inquiry around intellectual horsepower, I will say all 7 are important, equally important, but you use them differently based on situations that you're going into. But an intellectual horsepower is all about using your own personal areas of expertise or skill set to really make a difference, even sometimes recognizing opportunities that others miss. So if you're able to use the natural things that come to you, your knowledge, skills, and ability to really make an impact in a way that people weren't expecting, that is one of the key levers to success that some of the most successful leaders are able to do.
Yeah. And I'm going to read off the other 6. We won't have to go into detail, but I'd like to read. So intellectual horsepower. I think I just like, it just sounds like action, action with there. I also like courageous agility.
Yes, that's a popular one.
Yes. Strategic decision-making, intrapreneurship, a drive for results, executive presence, and stakeholder savvy. And you really talk about these are really important tactics and to know more about, and that the people that you did the research on, they have these and know when to pull in different situations when they're coming.
That's right. And the great thing about them is it's not rocket science. I mean, there are underlying skill sets and competencies under each one, but it's something that all of us can already possess the ability to do. It's just refining it just a little bit more so that you can pull that lever or that action when you need to make a difference.
If you've listened to my podcast for some time, you know I don't interrupt my conversations with guests very often. But I came across a person who I think is really phenomenal and outstanding and has so much to offer. So I'm like you to listen to their promo.
Have you always wondered how to advance your career but didn't quite know whom to turn to ask the questions? Tune in and listen to the Women, Career and Life podcast, where I share stories and practical advice for you to achieve your career and life goals and drive towards a path of financial independence. My name is Sirisha Kuchimanchi, and I host the Women Career and Life podcast. Look forward to joining you on your journey.
And what is important too is that, for some people, they're in a position of a leadership, right? And I put that a little bit in air quotes because there is a title and automatic authority that comes with that title. But not every leader has to have that. You can still be rising up and noticed and make a difference for yourself. Absolutely. How do you feel, or what do you say to people when they're like, well, I'm going to do this, but I won't be paid attention to, or no one will ever notice? What do you feel to, or what do you say in response to such a statement?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually say it's all about positioning. So you are responsible for positioning what you're bringing forth to the table in a way that really appeals and attracts others. In the book, I talk about how you provide what we call differentiating value. It's that kind of value that speaks to someone where they have to stop in their tracks and listen to what you're saying. So if you're employed and it's your boss, it's aligning what you want to say to something that's really important to them and their goals. Yeah. If you own a business, it's appealing to something that most of your customers absolutely die for. So making sure how you're positioning what you're wanting to say is important to attracting those that you're trying to serve.
And with that positioning, do you feel that maybe step one or whichever is to figure out what your position is? Do you feel that a lot of people are kind of trying to follow whatever this book says or this person's doing, and I listen to this podcast and not really sure what value is important to them?
I do think people struggle with that, but where I would flip the script a little bit is say, not focus on you, try to focus on who you're trying to influence or who you're trying to lead. And then be curious and find out what their top priorities are or where their pain points are. And then see where your values and what you're trying to do aligns with that. Because you will capture their attention if you can have a solution or a conversation or a way to ease their pain in some kind of way, shape, or form.
Curiosity
kills that cat at all times.
Curiosity is really a good stepping stone. In what ways do you feel that when you're working, because your focus is on leaders and change, how do you feel curiosity could be positioned when you're working? Like how does curiosity play out in action steps? Is it only asking questions?
It is asking questions, testing assumptions, and it's also bringing in additional data and perspectives, in my opinion, anyway. But I do believe curiosity is important so that you're uncovering any hidden obstacles or roadblocks that you're not anticipating. In any leadership role, there is always going to be a level of risk, right? And so as a leader who tries to quote unquote lead on top of their game, they're trying to reduce that risk as much as possible. And so they want to make decisions based on calculated risk, which is risk with data information. You're making the best judgment you can. Instead of going totally blind. So, it is a challenge, but that's, part of what you're signing up as being a leader, even if you're an individual contributor leader, or if you're a leader with a title where you're leading teams and other people.
Yeah. And I like that you said risk, because I think sometimes we are risk averse. We don't want to mess anything up. We never want to make a mistake. But really,
I'm guilty.
I have two hands up, and my legs, everything's just like, yes. Yeah. So, but being in risk averse, there can be a lot of limitation. Do you feel that when you're working with people who are new to leadership, that they are maybe more risk averse or not sure how to address risk until they have been exposed to certain things?
They absolutely are risk averse. I mean, as humans, we're, wired to avoid potential danger in any way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah.
That goes back to neuroscience. But you're absolutely right. Your younger, junior, more newer individuals into leadership, their passions and hearts are usually in the right place. And they don't want to hurt anyone or make a misstep. So they are extremely more risk averse. You typically do find more seasoned or tenured individuals who are more acceptable at risk, but you also find that they've honed that skill in reducing the risk, meaning they may find experts to talk to think about things they should avoid or what have you. So it does really, there is a correlation, in my opinion, with tenure and experience.
Yeah. So the risk is always there, but learning how to resource the help so that your risk in making that decision reduces, learning how to do some of that. Now, you also have a bachelor in industrial organizational psychology. So you're not just making this up from, like you have the background and why humans are the way they are. You have an MBA, triple concentration, organizational development, human resources, and marketing. And marketing, I feel, is also an essential part of leadership because you're marketing ideas, you're marketing change. Do you feel that we learn enough about that as we are going through our steps in our career?
In my opinion, absolutely not. Absolutely not. As you said, almost any, honestly, position in the world of work, whether you own your business or you're employed at an employer, you're having to constantly sell and market yourself. Both your capabilities in the current role that you were hired for, as well as your potential for potential other opportunities, either internal or external to the company. We're always in that marketing realm of our capabilities. So I absolutely do think that marketing, no matter your role or job function or title, is really, really important. And especially for a function like mine in human resources, where we're usually overhead instead of revenue producing, we're having to justify every dollar that we're asking for in our budgets. And so that is part of marketing our value in leading the talent that are within companies. So you're so spot on.
Yeah. And marketing comes in different views, marketing your talent, marketing your idea, marketing the resources that are needed. Because a lot of times resources come with a cost, right? And
absolutely.
Marketing opportunity cost, how to not lose the risk, having to do that. But it is important to acknowledge that it is a part of the game and we want to be a leader in that game at top of our game. But I think it's important to notice it's a game at all.
That's true. Absolutely right.
Now you have, written for Forbes, you have put this company together. You have done a lot. You have a lot of wisdom. It comes across just from your bio. It comes across on the Zoom call that we're having today. What would be one lesson that you would tell the Karan who was starting out, who's not, owning her own company consulting? What would you tell her as a piece of solicited advice?
Oh, there is so much. I probably could write a series of what I want to tell Karan. I will share with you. I would tell that Karan what one of my mentors told me mid-career in corporate. And he said, and this was kind of one of the pieces of the genesis for the book, but he said, Karan, you always have to be at the table to play the game. Meaning you have to earn the right to be heard and to be included in the meetings and conversations of where major decisions are made or influenced. So I would tell my younger self, try to make sure that you identify those individuals, whatever environment you're in, that are influential or power brokers or what have you, and try to do what you can to be part of the team because that's where the major decisions happen. And that is the way that you can bring up others, and give a hand to those that are coming behind you. It's a way that you can influence um, business or charity work or what have you. But having a seat at that table where your voice can be heard can influence so many lives, and that's where the action happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was a really good response. That was a powerful response. You have to be even at the table, earn that right.
Even at the table. Yes.
Now that you're at the table, and I think firmly
in some
say
tables,
that
I'm still trying to get at more and more tables.
I think you own the table as far as I'm concerned. What is still on the horizon for Karan Ferrell-Rhodes? What are you still rising up to that calls your heart and calls your passion and your experience?
Yeah, so one of the newer things that we're doing as part of my firm, I'm really passionate about those who impact so many lives in the world of work. Mm-hmm. And while it may be great to be, a multi-trillionaire, that's not the majority of the world. The majority of the world, is at another level. Mm-hmm. And so one of the areas, being so focused on leadership development, one of the most areas that are underserved are those senior leaders who are not yet in the C-suite, but are charged with leading teams and executing what the company leaders want. And so one of my big passions right now is the promoting of our network called Notable, which are for more advanced leaders who need some, confidence, leadership support, and what have you. So, definitely focused on helping those who are having the most impact, that are influencing the lives in our communities, your and my communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have a lot to offer, and I'm so grateful for your time today and sharing your perspective on what's important, and that everywhere you are, every moment, every time you're talking to someone, you are positioning, you are marketing, and what are you bringing to the table? Is it complaints, or is it a solution, or is it the best you and your knowledge, your intellectual horsepower?
Your intellectual horsepower.
I am going to quote you with that, but I'm going to put that in my office. I'm going to work on my intellectual horsepower. So I'm super grateful for your time today, and thank you so much for your grace. And you really had some very interesting things to say. I would like you to share how people can learn more about you and kind of just soak in all the goodness that you're putting out there.
You name your platform, I'm on it, except for TikTok, and I'm about to get on that one, but you name it. You can always find me on LinkedIn and all the major social media platforms. You can also reach out at our website at shockingly-different.com. There's a ton of ways to contact us there. And if I can give just a free offering to your listeners, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
If they are curious about what best triggers them, we call them leadership triggers, but what best influences them to follow the lead of others, we have a free quiz on the website, which will be fascinating to see what your own leadership triggers are. So if they want to go to shockingly-different.com/trigger, just singular, TRIGGER, they can take a free quiz. You won't be added to a mailing list. It's just informational purposes for gifts, and that might give you some grounding of where you stand and where you want to be more involved in as well.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. I will be going to the trigger.
Please do. Please do.
I know. And thank you so much again. I really had a great time.
I did too. Thank you so much as well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right. Have a great rest of your holiday season, December, and I know 2023 is going to be outstanding for you.
And for you as well.
Thank you. I really enjoyed my conversation with Karan. She has a lot of energy. She has a lot of wisdom and experience. And sometimes we're not talking to a person, but we're talking to all the people they've talked to. And Karan is one such person. So I encourage you to research on your own, listen to her words, read her book, I have, and just move in the direction that you're really excited about. I also invite you to leave a 5-star review. Leave a heartfelt, true review of this podcast episode or this podcast in general. The more people we can bring this out to, the greater impact it does in the hearts and minds of those. And until next time, let's keep building one another up.